So in finding your ideal and perfect customer, you have to keep in mind that these are the people that are going to buy what you're selling. Hey there, my loves. Welcome back to my channel and CPTV, the place for current and aspiring entrepreneurs who want the strategies, the processes, the tips, and the tools to help them start and grow their businesses so that they can experience the financial decision-making and lifestyle freedoms that come from entrepreneurship. If you like the way that sounds, you are going to want to keep it here, subscribe, share, give us a thumbs up, and hit that notification bell so that you will be notified every Tuesday and every Friday when I am putting it out there for you to grow as an entrepreneur. Today, we are actually going to be talking about one of my favorite topics, and it's something that a lot of people stress on when you're an entrepreneur, and that is how to find your dream client. You know, that client that we all dream of, that is perfectly ideal. We totally get them. We've actually created products and services specifically for them, and they are willing and have the money to buy. Yes, that ideal client. Every business has one, and she is as unique as you are and your business is. And in this video, we are going to dig in and get to know her hopes, her dreams, her frustrations, what she looks like, what she acts like, and her struggles and her triumphs. So it is time to dig in. Let's get to work. So you guys know me, I am a step-by-step kind of gal, so I'm about to break it down for you in 4 easy steps. Let's dive in to step number 1 when it comes to finding your dream client. So first things first, you've got to define that customer. And it's a mistake that I see a lot of entrepreneurs, new or even current ones who are on that path for growth, making when they don't really want to define it. They feel like if they define the customer and they narrow it down, they're going to be eliminating sales. And actually the opposite is really what's going to happen. When you define your target customer, I mean, you have to identify exactly who they are. You have to find the people who want and need what you have to offer. You have to find the people who will pay and can afford to pay for exactly what you have to offer. And you have to keep in mind that they are already probably purchasing very similar items to yours somewhere else or from somebody else. So in identifying your target customer, it's going to obviously require some research between exactly what that customer need is and those pain points and who that person is, but also taking a look at who you define to be some of your competitors. And once you get to know your competitors, you will also find that your ideal customer is already gravitating to them and exactly who that person is. So it's very example-y, right? I'm going to give you guys an idea. An example, a shopping network that's targeting stay-at-home moms over 30. Very specific, right? That's their ideal customer. Or a camping goods supply store that's targeting people in rural areas who are under 25 and who are just learning how to hunt, right? That's a very specific customer. So first you have to define who that customer is for you and make sure that they are going to be desiring and needing and able to pay for exactly what your business idea is. Step number 2 is to actually create your target customer profile. And that means you've got to literally almost create a dossier about who that person is, right? It's going to encompass you doing a lot of research on their demographics. You want to know their age. You want to know their educational level. You want to know their location, their geography. You want to know what their pain points are, what they're interested in, what magazines they read, what movies they watch, what sports they're interested in. You want to know as much information as you possibly can about this customer, and you want to begin to create that profile or that dossier. Now, I oftentimes get asked the question, where do I find all this demographic information about my ideal customer, Cheryl? And the answer might seem obvious, but it really is something that stumps a lot of folks. So I'm going to give you a CP impact tip, the top 3 resources that I like to use when I'm actually analyzing customer data and looking for demographics. I always check Google Obviously, you're going to want to do a search on Google and say demographics of young women, specific. So you have to kind of identify that target market and put that into Google. Also check out YouTube. You'll notice that a lot of videos in this amazing world of YouTube that we're in will actually be targeting very specific people. And one of the things that I love about doing demographic and customer avatar research on YouTube is that most of the time, bigger channels that are targeting a similar customer base to you will have a ton of comments after various videos. So when you find a video that's kind of addressing something similar to a product or service that you're offering or delivering, take the time to read the 500 or 800 comments underneath that video. You will find a lot of good information about your ideal customer avatar in those comments. Obviously, also Facebook. Anybody who's ever used Facebook knows that it is like the #1 social platform out there, and there are billions of people around the world using Facebook. Well, a lot of people think, well, Facebook, how am I going to find information out about my target customer or how to locate my dream client? Well, Facebook is not just full of your newsfeed and your friends. Facebook is full of every single group out there that's targeting a specific target market. You can actually become a part of those groups. And in my course that I walk you through step-by-step how to start your business, I actually specifically show you how to get that customer data by using Facebook groups, but it is an amazing resource. And then also Amazon. If you are selling a product or even a service, it's very easy for you to go onto Amazon and find a similar product or a book that's kind of addressing your service and read the reviews. Those reviews are real hardcore gut serious feelings of most likely your ideal customer avatar. If they are buying that product or service on Amazon and it's similar to your product or your service, then it's going to be very clear to you the demographics of what that customer base looks like, because the people who are leaving reviews are people who've already made the purchase. And so you're able to get good data out of those 4 systems in order to be able to really create that customer profile. Now, beyond the demographics in a customer profile, you also want to make sure that you are documenting, almost more importantly than the basic demographics, the psychographics of your customer. And, marketing and advertising has changed so much over the years that I've actually had my businesses. And back in the day, it wasn't really about the psychographics of the individual or the customer, but you always have to sell based upon need. I've always grown my businesses in a need-based selling format. Well, in order for me to sell based upon need, I have to really understand the customer and the client, and I have to be able to sell to their emotions. And emotions are really what drive people. So when I say understand the psychographics, you have to understand what books your ideal customer are reading, what dreams they have for the future, what movies they enjoy. That's all going to evoke a specific characteristic of emotion. You're also going to want to understand what their biggest challenges are, what their biggest pain points are, what their biggest frustrations are, because you have to make sure that your product or service is actually meeting those needs. And most importantly, they will tell you exactly what information you need in order to market directly to them, in order to grab their attention, in order to draw them in, and in order to grow them as a customer or client. So you have to make sure that you understand those psychographics and as well as the demographics, and you want to put them all in that customer profile. So moving on to actually step number 3 in finding your dream client, and that is figuring out what their major challenges, dissatisfactions, and pain points are. Now, the whole reason why I'm telling you to find out what it is because you have to make sure that your product or your service that you're creating and that you're building your business around is actually going to solve a problem. Businesses that are based off of anything other than problem solving don't typically last long, and they don't typically grow enough revenue for the owner or the founder to be able to survive and stick with it. So being a solutions-based business is going to be critical. As you know, any business that's had longevity or had success has been created create it directly as it relates to providing solutions and addressing problems in society. So you have to understand what your ideal customer's major challenges are. You have to know what's keeping them up at night, and you have to know this so that you can offer solutions, but also really speak in their terms and bring them in and draw them in and create that amazing content that you should to provide them with solutions. And I talk a little bit about that in this video that I'm going to link to up here about growing your audience in social media. And we will be talking about, kind of how to address those pain points in content. So check those out if you want more in depth, or like I said, join that masterclass and we'll be diving into that as well. But I need you to go where your ideal customer is online, and like blogs or Facebook groups, or in certain, online groups, Q&A forums, chat rooms, anywhere that they are in social media. And I need you to ask questions, and I need you to shut up and listen. Read what they're saying. Take in that information. The biggest problem that I see people making when it comes to finding their dream client is that you base all of your decisions off of your own assumptions about what you think somebody else wants or needs or is interested in. And that is going to be the kiss of death in your business. And then all of a sudden you're going to be sitting around wondering why nobody's buying from you, why you can't convert anybody in a sales process, and why you don't have any money. The reason is because honestly, the only person that's going to buy from you when you assume all of those things is you, because you're basing all of your stuff off of your own opinion. You cannot be narcissistic and be a successful entrepreneur. You have to be a good listener. And that means you have to go to where people are. You have to ask the questions. You have to listen very intently. You have to keep track of what they're asking you for. And then you have to deliver. Now, go out and build that profile on that ideal client, because these 3 steps is going to help you find your dream client. And I can tell you that before you create another product, before you create a service, or even before you finalize the real decision behind what your business should be based in, you have to know who you're selling it to and if it can ultimately be sold. And so don't skip this. And I see a lot of entrepreneurs make that mistake. And it's actually a mistake that I've made on so many occasions, and it's caused me to have to pivot and redirect in the middle. And I've wasted a lot of time and money in doing it the other way around. But almost the first step before you move forward in your business idea, or before you create that new business idea, or you change up your current business idea, is really to define who that perfect customer is and create everything around him or her. And step number 4, and lastly, and this one is kind of a no-brainer, but get really specific about your market. I started this episode out by saying so many times people are afraid to really niche down and get very specific, because they assume that they are going to miss sales because of it. And in reality, you are more likely to miss sales because you don't do that. Very perfect example is you can't meet the needs of every single person. So if I am an, college educated business owner, entrepreneur woman over a certain age, with family and with kids, I'm going to have very specific needs and very different needs than someone who is graduated from high school, is single, is still in college, and they're working their way up the corporate ladder, right? So if you have a product or a service, it's going to be impossible for this person over here to be interested in buying something that I would ultimately be interested in buying it, right? I also have a different income level, so I'm going to be able to afford things at a different level than the person who just graduated from high school and is ultimately still making their way through college. I have more expendable income, so I can afford to spend $40 on a face cream. So if you're developing a face cream that you want to price at $40, I'm your person. You can't meet the needs of all women. You have to niche down. You have to be very specific in order to ensure that you're going to be successful. So don't be afraid to niche, and keep niching, because an original business plan or an original business idea that I had was, I want to help more business owners work more efficiently, right? Well, that sounds very different than this example of, I want to help more work from home moms save time in their businesses by introducing planning systems, right? If you know you're targeting work from home moms, you know what they're doing, you know what they're interested in, you know how to pull at their heartstrings, you want to talk about kids, you want to talk about being exhausted. So the topic is very, very different than if you're just talking about general business owners, right? So niching it down is going to ultimately help you. And see if you need to keep niching down is also critical. You're going to niche a little bit. You're going to try things out. You're going to see who's attracted to you and whose needs you're meeting. And you're going to keep niching and niching and niching until you find the perfect client. So in finding your ideal and perfect customer, you have to keep in mind that these are the people that are going to buy what you're selling. So ultimately, in the long term, you really, really, really need to get to know them in order to serve them well, in order to deliver on your promise, in order to keep them engaged, and in order to ensure that they keep buying from you. They're probably already purchasing similar products from somebody else. And so it's really important in the overall success of your business for you to figure out who that person is and ultimately take these steps that I just went over with you to find them. So guys, that's it. If you like this, make sure you subscribe, you hit that, smash that like button for me, say a yes CP down in the comments, and I look forward to seeing you guys next time on our next episode. Until then, I love you. Mwah!